so human design has at the top level these five energy types, and it is foundational information. And just knowing this one thing about yourself can change your life for the better, because it helps you to start benefiting from learning about your design just through this simple thing. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Welcome to the Human Design Hive podcast. Let's get into it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Dana, your host here, and I am solo because we are doing a replay of one of our most popular episodes today. So why the replay? Well, as you're hearing this, you know we are now in full swing of the holiday season. December is upon us, and everything that I would say everything that was normally on a regular schedule just kind of goes out the window. Everybody has, if you are in college or have kids in college, you've got them getting ready to come home like I do. I have one college student who I believe, what is today? She'll be coming home in a few days for a month. So that changes things in the household, as I'm sure it does for you. Also, likewise, there's just all the holiday parties and the shopping and all the things you have to think of. And if you're like me, there's just a lot going on. And so I think that for December and the rest of the year, which is December, we are going to replay some episodes, some of our greatest hits, if you will, and come back fresh in January with new content. So the episode that we're digging into today is about the human design types. This was actually our third episode that we ever recorded, and so it was a little bit painful to go back and kind of go over it again, re-edit it. You can hear the original version if you want to go all the way back, but this is a little cleaned up version that hopefully will be a little easier to navigate. Also, when we first started recording these episodes, it was audio only, didn't have any video. And so if you are wanting to see something and not just listen to it, you can go to YouTube. I'm going to upload this episode to YouTube. There will be a bit of a stock footage background there, but I'm also going to throw up some graphics on the screen for you to look at as we go through some of the explanations of the types. So just a little added bonus, but you won't see our smiling faces because there's just no video. It doesn't exist. So anyways, there is that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think. And also, as we move into the new year, let us know what it is you're still curious about human design, who you'd like to hear from, what you'd like to hear about. You can always reach me at dana@humandesignhive.com. Make sure you check out the website for all the offerings. Also, this holiday season, I am offering gift certificates. They're not publicly published, so you will have to reach out to me either on Instagram or at Human Design Hive, or you can also email me for sure to let me know what you're interested in for a gift certificate, and we can make that happen. So anyways, again, I'm going to say it, I think, for the third time now. Enjoy the show, and we'll catch you in the next episode. So now that we've laid the somewhat foundation of human design, it's time to really learn how to apply it, I suppose, and figure out why it helps you, or how it helps you, I should say. So where we always start is with the human design energy types. And do you have an understanding of what the types are?
I know there's a generator, manifesting generator, manifestor, Reflector and Projector. There's 5, right?
There is 5. You are correct.
Yes.
All right, give
Gold
yourself the
star.
first gold star. I know what motivates you. Maybe I should get a little star board for you, just so you can.
Maybe.
Maybe. That never worked for me. I was talking about that with somebody else one day. They were talking about the stars on the board or whatever. I was like, who needs a star? I don't care.
Yeah, grades worked very well in motivating me.
I needed that internal motivation and it was very hard to get internally motivated. So, I mean, about things I didn't care about, but that goes towards my type, which we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
So, and it's fun to look at this conversation from perspectives of 2 different energy types. I am a generator. And
I am a projector.
Projector. And so you've taught me a lot about projectors just by looking back over your lifetime and saying, oh, yeah, I see it now. So the question is then, what is a type?
I have no idea what makes what.
Okay.
Or why.
Well, you came to the right place. So human design has at the top level these 5 energy types, and it is foundational information. And just knowing this one thing about yourself can change your life for the better, because it helps you to start benefiting from learning about your design just through this simple thing. And so type is how your energy interacts with the universe and with others. So the 5 types all play specific roles in how things progress or get done here in this world. And then also each type has a strategy, because you'll hear those words together all the time. You're going to hear the 3 words you hear all the time is follow your type, strategy, and authority. And authority, we're going to probably do in a separate episode, because we're trying to keep these episodes not, 2 hours long. We're trying to keep them brief enough that you can listen to it, but not so long that you get bored.
Or overwhelmed with information.
Oh, overwhelmed. That's the word. No, never boring.
Never.
So the strategy part of it, so you have the type and the strategy. And so the type is the role that you play, and the strategy, when you're talking about strategy, is a key way to tell how to make choices that are correct for you. It's part of that, but also it helps you, strategy helps you minimize resistance as you move throughout your life. It's how to kind of navigate with your energy, so to speak, and it's how you interact with others.
So I'm going to turn this into a boat for some reason, because that's what came to mind. Okay. So your type is the vessel, is the boat, the actual hull of the boat. And then your strategy is the wheel.
Well, no,
Wrong.
Well, I don't want to get it confused with another analogy that's out there about human design. And if you want to use a boat for this, we could use a boat for this. When I say for this other analogy, in human design, in the traditional teachings, they talk about you know how we talked about last episode about the vehicle and all these other things. Well, in the human design analogy, when we're talking about, this is going back a little bit before we go into type, you have the personality side, the design side, and then we have the G center. So remember we talked about those crystals of consciousness and all that stuff. So basically what Ra taught was that you need to have what he called passenger, the voice said also, passenger consciousness. And so the passenger would be the boat passenger. We'll use a boat analogy. Okay, you're getting on the boat. The boat itself, structure, is the vehicle. It drives you around, right? You got to ride in the boat.
Sails?
No, you just in the hull of the boat. You got to ride in the boat. Most people don't know how to drive a boat, so they have what?
A captain.
A captain. So the captain would be the magnetic monopole, the driver, of the vehicle, the captain of the vehicle. And so what they say is the you that you think is you, the personality side of the human design side, you're just supposed to sit in the boat and let the captain take you out for a ride, and you just enjoy the ride. You don't try to steer the boat. You don't try to bring the boat to the dock. You don't try to tell the captain where he needs to go. The captain knows where to go for you to have the most pleasurable cruise, right?
Uh-huh.
And he knows the boat very well. He knows what the boat's capable of, so he captains the boat. And your job in human design is to not interfere with the captain or the vehicle. You just sit back and enjoy the ride. So that's why I didn't want to use the boat analogy for type.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So type is determined in the body graph by your definition. And when you're looking at a body graph, definition is you'll see centers that are colored in and you'll see centers that are white. The centers that are colored in for all the energy types except for the reflectors, they don't have any colored in centers. But
not any.
So definition is created in the chart from activations in the chart, the planets, certain gates, and if they gate is in one center, connects with the gate in another center through a channel, that creates the definition. So that's why a center would be colored in. So anywhere you see a center colored in, you follow, it's got a channel line somewhere that connects it to another center. That's definition.
Can it be colored in and not have a channel, or no?
It will have to have at least one channel if the center is colored in, because that means it is connected to another center, which is what creates definition.
But what if you don't have a complete channel?
It's a hanging gate. You can have a center if you're looking at a body graph that is defined, which means it's connected to another center. And there could be other gates on that center that are activated but not connected to other centers. Those are just hanging gates. So the definition part is what determines your type. And a lot of it is the two centers that really determine type are the sacral center, which if you're looking at a traditional human design body graph with the with the traditional colors, you will see the sacral center is the second square up from the bottom, and it's going to be red. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the sacral center. And then you see the throat center is the next square up that's brown or white. It's the throat center.
It's under the two triangles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and we're going to do a more detailed episode on centers, but so basically, look, if you're listening along right now and you have no clue what we're talking about, if you look at a body graph from the top down, there's the head center, which is a triangle. The ajna is another triangle. The square there is the throat center. And then the diamond shape in the middle is the G center. That's where the magnetic monopole lives. It's where the captain of the boat is. And then off to the right, there's another triangle. That's the will center. Okay. Then as we move down, we see what we're talking about. The sacral center is that next square down in the middle of the chart. It's the sacral. Coming off on either side of the sacral. On the right is the emotional solar plexus. On the left is the spleen. And at the bottom, that bottom square is the root. Okay. So your type is determined by activations or non-activations, definition or non-definition in the sacral center and the throat center and various connections. Okay, so that being said, knowing your type and following your strategy can help you develop more confidence and trust in your ability to make reliable decisions for yourself, and know that no matter what else you do in life, you're going to be moving towards that alignment for things to just move easier for you. So your type comes from the definition, and we're going to go through what those types are. And then your strategy is always attached. It's determined by what type you are. Okay. Each type has its own specific strategy. The strategy doesn't move around from type to type. It's the
So
same
like a projector always has this, every projector has the same type of strategy.
strategy. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. So really all this can do to help you, it just helps you navigate away from things that basically are a waste of your time or energy and helps like just put you in the flow. So, it's just a easier way of living, honestly. But
Sounds very nice.
it does, but it can take a little getting used to consciously use your strategy, because we talked about before, we've been conditioned to be different than what we really are, because how you were taught to be, and we're going to talk about this. We have a lot of experience here with you being the projector in a house full of generators and a manifesting generator. So you were raised by generators, and you were raised by a generator, manifesting generator. So, and we didn't know what our type or strategy was most of your life, so luckily you're relatively unscathed.
I think so.
But so anyway, so let's just get started. So the first type we want to talk about is the manifestor. And manifestors make up roughly 9% of the population total.
I was going to ask that.
And so a manifestor, what defines a manifestor, if you're looking at a human design chart, they will have an undefined or a white sacral center.
Okay.
But they have a defined throat, and that throat is going to be connected to another motor. Now, I have some trainings in the works to go into more detail with visuals of what this looks like. But just know, when you get your body graph printed out or even just looked at from Genetic Matrix, which is what I highly recommend using, it will tell you what your type is. You don't have to figure it out yourself.
What are the motors?
The motors are the will center, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. So
There's
it'll
four?
have one or more of the other motors. It could have all three, but it's going to have a motor connection. And a motor, all that means is it carries its own style of energy that helps move energy through the chart, because to get to the throat, basically, because the throat is all roads lead to the throat in human design, because the throat is our center of manifestation and communication. It's how we get things done, how we get things into action is through the throat.
So the motors are the throat?
No, the throat isn't. Nope, throat is not a motor.
I'm already okay. So what are the motors again?
The motors for in the whole chart, or just for a manifestor? For the whole chart?
The whole chart, yeah.
The root, the sacral, the solar plexus, and the will center.
The will center. Oh, God.
Okay. But a manifestor does not get their energy from the sacral center. So what that means is that they have the ability to get things into action because they have a direct connection to the throat. They are the types that are here to basically initiate things and get the ball rolling. So this can be, I don't want to say good and bad. It has its challenges and it has its, strengths as well. So basically, when I say initiate action, it means they're here to give all the other types really something to respond to.
Do you know offhand any famous people that are manifestors?
Well, I was going to tell you towards the end of this, but I can tell you now if you'd like. Okay. In doing some research, some famous manifestors. There's Frank Lloyd Wright, who was a famous architect, and Bruce Springsteen, the boss.
I was going to say the king, but I was like, that doesn't sound right.
No, he's
that's Elvis.
I think
was
so.
Elvis
Yes,
the king.
I don't know what his human design type was, but yes, Bruce Springsteen and George W. Bush.
W, that's
George W.
the
That's
elder.
Junior. No,
Oh,
that's Junior.
HW is, oh, okay.
Yes.
W
Yeah.
is junior.
Yes. So off tangent. So bringing it back. So they're here to get the ball rolling, initiate others in action. And that's because they do have a motorized throat. And that gives them the ability to just, like I said, they can just manifest because the throat center is the center of manifestation. It's how we get things out into the world is through the throat center.
So that means they can consistently and or maybe not consistent, but they can get what's in their head or whatever out because they have a motorized throat. They
Yes.
don't
And
like
so,
they don't have the difficulty.
yeah, this might help. So basically, manifestors have their own internal nonverbal creative flow. So what that looks like is they are kind of directly tapped in to divine inspiration, let's call it. You know, they don't always know when something's going to come through that they want to act upon, but yes, it is very much an internal process. So it's not responding to other things, which is, you know, another type does that. This is literally in their own being. They will get an urge, and they don't really even know where it comes from. It's just like, this is what I want to do. And so what a manifestor usually does is just acts on that impulse. And that can cause some problems with people around them, which brings us to what their strategy is. So the strategy for a manifestor is to inform. That's the words you're going to hear all the time, is to inform.
Manifestor is to inform.
Yes. And what that means, and most manifestors, from my understanding, when they first hear this, they do not like to hear this because they just like to do their thing. They just want to go because when they get the creative urge, they have to follow it. It's this really powerful energy that they carry because they're taking something that was out in the ether and bringing it into form. And they can do that. They can get the ball rolling. So if they don't inform, like they just get up and walk out and do something, then they kind of can leave people a little bit confused and quite often can cause issues with the people around them. So if a manifestor can inform those around them of what it is they are about to do or what they're thinking of doing, this is their strategy. What it does is it helps pretty much get people out of their way. Because when they are interrupted because they haven't informed, that leads to their emotional theme, they call it, of anger. And there is some discussion around, is it anger or is it just kind of a angst or, you know, what? But it can definitely result in anger. Because if you think about it, when they're in their zone, when they're in their flow, it's like, it's this lightning, almost like powerful energy. And if they start moving in one direction towards what they want to do, and somebody says, hey, what are you doing? Or, hey, you need some help? It interrupts that flow. And like I said, they don't always know when the flow is going to start, when it's going to happen, when it's going to strike. They just go with it. They have to go with it. And it can cause them to just like, do you understand what I mean?
I think so. Like, I don't know if I have anything to add to it, but I think I know what you're saying.
Well, basically that powerful energy, if it's not being used in a creative way and it gets interrupted, it has to go somewhere. And so it comes out as a powerful emotion, basically. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and this,
I like the lightning analogy.
yeah. So what is interesting is that the manifestors being only 9% of the population, that's not a lot of people, right, on the planet. However, they are the types that can just do it. And what have we always talked, well, not, you've probably heard it growing up, you know, we all heard it, the whole Nike slogan, just do it, right? The hustle, the grind, just go and just do it and make everything happen.
Mm-hmm.
Only 9% of the population is designed to do that. And then you can get even a finer point on that about what kinds of manifestors, depending on their authority, which I said we'll go into later, can actually literally just in the moment do it. Right? So it's no wonder so many of us feel inadequate because we're just not designed to just do it.
To just do it.
Mm-hmm. So, and as I said, a lot of manifestors do not like to hear about the informing piece because they, first of all, will maybe think it is asking for permission. Because probably when they were children, their manifestor energy was probably throttled at a pretty early age. As you can imagine, if you have a toddler that decides they want to go run into the water, yeah, you have to stop them, and so
you can't do that.
Yeah, and there are safe ways to raise manifestor children, obviously, but we're just learning about this stuff, since Rob brought the system through. We're just learning about it. So there's
didn't he say it was for the children or something along those lines?
Design. Yeah, human design. The more that we can talk about this and start teaching it from an earlier age, with your children, if you have them, I always say that, if you have them, to live according to what's natural to them so they don't feel shut down. Because especially manifestor women, manifestor girls, because it's definitely an energy that is not appreciated in women.
No.
To just go do, and I don't need your help. Please get out of my way.
Please move.
Yeah. So yes, they can initiate, but they should inform those around them who might be affected by their actions and just let them know, hey, listen, I'm going to be working on this project, or, hey, listen, I'm going to go down to the store and buy something and not just walk out of the room and leave and not tell anybody like where you went.
Or just get up from dinner.
You just get up from dinner and walk away. Where are you going? I don't know.
Oh, to the bathroom.
Yeah. Things like that. If you just say, hey, this is what I'm doing, then everybody's like, oh, okay. Because like I said, since they carry this manifesting energy, it feels different than a lot of others around us. And so people are like, this is on the subtle level. A lot of times people feel a little on edge around a manifestor because they don't really know what to expect. And so, that's manifestor in a nutshell.
Do you personally know any manifestors?
Yes, I do. I did not know it when I've known them longer than I knew about human design, but I do personally. And now one's a very good friend of mine, and I definitely recognize that energy and that power in her, that she does have a way of being able to just make things happen, in the sense that when she decides she wants to do something, she can just start working on it. But I also know that it works a lot easier for her when she lets people know what she's going to be working on. So anyways, so most important things for manifestors. Oh, here's another thing we need to point out about a manifestor. So since their energy to the throat comes from one of those other motors, and they don't have a defined sacral center, the sacral center is the center for pure work and life force energy. So the sacral center is always on. It's always generating energy. And so if you are undefined in that area, as a manifestor is, and a couple other energy types are as well, it means that that energy is inconsistent in you. It's not sustained. It's not always on, as it is in other types that are defined there. So that means that manifestors aren't meant to necessarily finish the things that they get started. They are not meant to like carry it to the finish line type of thing. They are the ones that get the ball rolling, like we said, because they don't have a sustainable source of energy of their own. They have different types of energy that either operates in waves or in pulses or until it's depleted. So manifestors have to learn to not push to get every part of the project or whatever done, because that's not their role.
They're primarily just start it and get it going.
Yeah, and so in the workforce, they would be best, if they can have some autonomy to work alone because they can work at a different pace than other people. They're not meant to work the typical 9 to 5 hours because they do need to, they have these really just bursts of energy at times. So that's something to keep in mind, is to honor the variable energy of their sacral center, because it'll depend on who they're around. They might feel really energized, and then when that person's gone, they may not. So we'll talk about how the centers work and everything too a little later on. But let's move on.
What's next?
Next was going to move to the sacral type, the generator type. So what characterizes it? Well, first of all, generators, there's about roughly 37% of the population are generators. It's a lot of people.
Does that make them the most common?
Yes, that does. It's a close second with the manifesting generators, but not a close second. Manifesting generators, close second. But yes, between generators and manifesting generators, they make up nearly 70% of the population on Earth. So what defines a generator is...
It is the sacral.
That is correct. They will have a defined sacral center. Like I said, your body graph will tell you, your report will tell you what your type is. But if you want to look at the body graph for a generator, you're going to have a defined sacral center, meaning it will be colored in and it'll be connected to something else around it. But they do not have a motorized throat, which means that sacral motor or any of the other motors we talked about will not have a direct or indirect connection to the throat center. So they can have a defined throat like I do, meaning it's colored in, but my throat center is not connected to one of the motors.
So is that a defined sacral and a non-motorized throat? That's the two defining features of a generator.
Very good. There's your second gold star.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. So, as we just talked about, the sacral center is this sustainable energy center, or energy center for work, life force energy.
Very consistent, right?
Yes. It's like the pure life force energy that's always there. And it's just it's on if you're a generator. It means you have a lot of energy and you have a lot of sustainable energy. And the role of the generators in the world, they're here to work, but they're best here to work at things they want to be doing is the best use of their energy. But they are the builders in the world. They're the ones that actually help build this physical world, is the generators. And generators do best, like I said, when they have work that feels fulfilling or fulfills a bigger purpose. And I'm just going to say it. So, I mean, might as well get to know me and where I stand on a lot of things. So, they say, as we look back through all human history, the generators would have been the type that, and I don't mean to use triggering language or anything, but they would be the more workers, the enslaved people, the serfs, the people that just were, had the overlord that told them what to do. And they just put their heads down and they did it because they have a lot of energy and they can push through and just keep pushing. The generator won't burn out as fast as some of the other types are because they can really work hard, literally physically all day, go to bed exhausted, which is how they're supposed to, use their energy, is to go to bed exhausted and then wake up the next day and still have energy to work. Where if you're undefined in that center, you can work, but you may exhaust yourself and it might take you 3 or 4 or 5 days to recover. But generators could always get back up and do it. And so it was very easy to get a generator to agree to work because they can.
Or forced into work.
Yeah. Well, and, things are changing, but several hundred or for millennia, whatever, they would say that the manifestor type would be the more likely type to have been in positions of power because they were able to just go and take and do what they wanted to do and tell others what to do. And so there's the generators doing the work. So I do tend to, really, what motivates me in a lot of sharing this information, not only just to help people wake up to the truth of who they are, but in order, I think, to change the way things are in the world now, the more people, if you think about it, if 70% of the population is a generator type, if 70% of the population is relatively, as a generalization, they're unhappy because they have been doing work they don't want to be doing and living lives they don't want to be living. A lot of problems we see in the world are because 70% of us are generators. We're the ones that are creating a lot of this energy. And Ra talked about this a lot, that he felt it was his life mission to wake generators up, because if he could empower more generators to understand their power and to work towards things that light them up, it would just fix a lot of things. And the
whole world might be a whole lot happier.
And let's mention, you asked about famous manifestors. Ra himself was a manifestor. So he did get the ball. Yes, he initiated us all, got the ball rolling, because the voice said that the system was delivered to everybody at the same time. When that supernova came through and all that information came through, we all got the download. But Ra was the one that was given the task of initiating it and putting it into action. And the rest of us are picking it up now. So, little side note. Okay, so off that tangent, let's get on to strategy for a generator. Okay. Strategy for a generator is wait to respond. Now, there's another nuanced layer with a generator and their strategy, and ties in with some authority as well, which is called the sacral response. So generators have this built-in hack, basically, in the sacral center, because the sacral center, as we said, the generator is meant to respond to things. And what that means are actual literal things outside of their internal reality. Things in their outer reality is what a generator responds to. And how they respond is through their sacral response. So the sacral has this nonverbal voice, let's call it. It's not words, it's not language. It's like a uh-huh or an uh-uh. And this was very interesting to tap into when I first learned about human design, because I didn't learn about the sacral response at first. I learned about waiting to respond. And I hated that.
Because you are a generator.
I am a generator. I didn't like that. When I first heard you're here to work and you got to wait to respond, which was like, I got to wait around.
You're like, this sucks.
Yeah. Because to be honest, up until this point, I hadn't really found work I really, really liked. So that's where a lot of people can get confused on their type and say they don't resonate with their human design type. Well, it's probably because of conditioning or lived experience already of what that means. So for me, work was like, sometimes I enjoyed it, but for work, and in the sense of how we understand and define work right now is what you get paid to do, I never really found anything I really enjoyed doing.
No.
So, but
not
as
enough
a mom,
for it to last.
Yeah, but as a mom, that was my work too. And even though it's challenging to be a mom, I'd always try to find the energy to I could keep doing things for you guys. You might have a different experience. I don't know.
No, I don't have the bad experience of you as a mom. I think I had a great childhood.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. That's what I really want to hear on this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. So back to the sacral response. So since there is so much energy in the sacral center, there is this built-in response that lets the generator know what is correct use of its energy. And that is a affirmative or a negative response. It's a uh-huh or uh-uh. And they teach it like that, uh-huh, uh-uh, because it's not language. It doesn't come from the throat. It comes from down in the sacral center in the belly.
The second
And
brain.
and they say that most generators as children use that grunting almost sound, and were told probably to use their words by their parents. They don't like kids that go around and just grunt. So they got conditioned out of it, and it, over time, disconnects a lot of generators from their sacral response. And so they end up not paying attention to the signals their body is giving them, and they just respond from what they think they should do or what they think others want from them. And that leads to unhappy generators because they're basically wasting their energy on things that aren't correct for them. And so for me, because I think a lot of generators can describe it differently, what it feels like. I don't always have the I think I have the more than the
I've heard. I think I have specifically heard that response come out of you.
Probably. And I didn't even notice it. Probably a lot of us don't notice it. That's because it's not thinking and it's not verbal. It is literally the body.
Sometimes it's just a facial expression, and I'm like, what?
Well, yeah, that's how I best describe it. When if you and this is a yes or no response. So the best way to elicit a sacral response is through yes or no questioning, and it's the best way for a generator to really get in touch with what is correct for them by asking them yes or no questions. And so
like, instead of saying, what do you want for lunch, you'd be like, do you want Taco Bell or Chick-fil-A?
No, you can't say Taco Bell or Chick-fil-A.
Oh, do you want Taco Bell?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you want Chick-fil-A?
That's an easy one.
I know.
That's good. That's a good example. Because your dad would do that all the time. He'd say, oh, you want to go out to dinner tonight? And I'd be like, yeah. Where do you want to go? I don't care. Oh, well,
do you want to go
you don't know where you want to go? And he'd be like, okay, well, you want to go to, you want to go, I'll be like, Chuck's Steakhouse? Mm-mm. Well, do you want to maybe Mexican? Mm-mm. Pizza? No. Well, what do you want then? I don't know. And then he just has to ask me the right one. And he'd say, sushi. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. He's like, I swear. You say you don't care, but everything I say, you shoot down. Well, that is the sacral response. So a generator has to have something show up, and then their sacral response is like, yeah, either yes, I want to do that, or Then, depending on what their authority is, which we will go into on the next episode, whether they have to kind of wait to make the decision or they can respond right away, is how a generator is meant to act. Because, like I said,
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we said we weren't going to go into authority, but like with strategy, each strategy or each type has a specific strategy. Mm-hmm. Are there only like so many authorities, and do they also correlate with like certain types?
Yes. So your authority will never change your strategy. Okay. Your strategy is your strategy for your type. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it can inform how you use your strategy. So it's just another layer, because basically,
like an add-on.
Yeah, it's like an add-on, because basically there's people that are meant to act in the moment and those who aren't. And that's the basics of authority. It's a lot more nuanced than that, but that's the basics. And with there being 5 types and 5 strategies, we figure is enough to cover in one episode, just this. So the authority episode may be a little shorter. Okay, so a generator, since they do have this capacity for immense energy and for building and everything, that's why their authority is to respond to things, because they're really designed to just dance with the universe by following things that light them up, because that's going to be an appropriate use of their energy, and they're going to feel fulfilled, and they're going to have all this just really nice, juicy powerful energy to put out into the world. And if they're not, if their sacral says no or is uncertain, even like I don't know, that's a no for a generator. Like, don't do it. You either get the yes feeling, and it can just be a feeling. For me, yes is like, ooh, it's a little leap, and then no is like a literal. That's probably why you see that face sometimes I make is like, because it literally feels like it just in my stomach just feels like it kind of just pulls right in. Don't have nothing to do with it.
It's like, nope.
Yeah. So that basically ensures that generators get to set the terms for the work that they do and how they use their energy, which is the best use of their energy.
Mm-hmm. What is their emotional theme?
So for a generator, it is frustration. Any generator listening will understand this, I think, right away. This frustration comes from different things. One being they said yes to something they didn't want to say yes to, and it's not a proper use of energy. They get frustrated. Generators can also get frustrated when they're trying to initiate action without waiting to respond to something. Because a generator, say you could get an idea like me, I want to start a podcast. Well, I needed things to show up in my outer reality. And it could be something I heard, something I saw, something somebody says to me. Like, generators follow the signs, basically. And so if I had that in my energy of I want to do something and I just push at it, it takes longer. Or it can lead to me doing things that maybe aren't correct for me because I haven't gotten that validation from my outer reality to say, yes, this is the time to go do this. It's like, okay. So from trying to initiate instead of respond can cause frustration. And then generators also, this is a little more in depth, but generators learn in a kind of stair step thing. So they'll take a big leap and then they'll plateau. Like they say yes to something and they're all in, and then their energy just kind of plateaus. And like when they're learning something new, because they're here to like master things and master life. They're here to really, they take their time, they can go in depth, but they have this stair step learning curve. So when they said yes to something, they learn a bunch, then they plateau. This is usually when a lot of generators either quit and go try to do something else. And learning, this is something I've been learning the last 1 or 2 years, of being okay in that pause plateau area, because really it's a gathering of the energy for the next thing that's going to show up, that's going to propel the generator further along their path.
So are all of the emotional themes like negative emotions?
Well, no. So there is another side to it. A lot of times, like especially when you're first introducing it, talking about, because usually we can recognize the negative emotions first to know it's time to course correct. It's maybe if you start feeling frustrated or you start feeling angry as a manifestor, it's time to look, okay, am I following my strategy and authority? Type and strategy.
I was just nodding along.
Yeah, just not along. Because what that means then is that, yes, if you do follow your strategy for a manifestor, they've informed, and instead of experiencing anger, they experience a feeling of peace because they're allowed to be in their zone, create at their own pace, not be interrupted. They just have this sense of peace that they can, follow their own flow. Generator, if they're following their strategy and are waiting to respond to things, they are more likely to get the job done. They're using their energy on things that are feeling good for them, and they feel a sense of satisfaction. It's like at the end of the day, it's like a job well done. It feels very satisfying to know that you used your energy appropriately. Okay. So let's bring it back around and talk about the famous generators.
Yes, famous generators.
everyone's most favorite famous generators, Oprah Winfrey. Let's have a moment for Oprah.
Not dead.
I know. I just love her so much. I do. I want to be.
She is great.
Great. And then, unfortunately, we do have another famous generator who has passed. RBG. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a generator. And old Albert Einstein, he was a generator as well.
I feel like those all make sense.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So let's move on.
What's next? Who's next?
Manifesting generators. So manifesting generators are the other.
Let me see if I can take a guess on what makes them a manifesting generator.
33% of the population.
Yes. So they have to have their sacral defined.
Correct.
And I'm going to say a motorized throat.
You are correct.
Yes. Do I get another gold star?
Yeah. Yeah. That's 3. We're up to 3.
Yes.
Yes. And the most, what they call a quote unquote pure generator is when they have there's one channel, which is the manifesting generator channel, that directly connects the sacral center directly to the throat. However, they could also have, they don't have to have the sacral center connected to the throat, but the sacral center does have to be defined. So like you could have your sacral center defined to the root, but then you could have your throat defined to like the will center or solar plexus independently and still be a manifesting generator. But yes, they will have to have a motorized throat and a defined sacral center. And I think I said to a friend of mine, my other friend who's a 6'2" projector, I think Kaylee may take over this podcast by episode 4 or 5, because being a line 6 projector, your 6'2" profile, you are picking up things fast. I don't think you'll be a newbie for very long. So, that being said, Grasshopper, what do you think then the manifesting generators, what are they here to do?
So Manifestor is to get the ball rolling, and a generator, do they finish things?
Well, at the core of it, they are still generator types because they have a defined sacral center. So they have that defined sustainable energy. So that definitely makes them a generator type. So they do have to respond to things. But they also, with that motorized throat, can also make things happen. So the trick, the delicate, not trick, but the like fine line the manifesting generator has to walk is responding to things and then informing before they act.
It's quite the tightrope.
So
those are kind of opposite types, it feels.
Yeah. But they can immediately go into action after they've responded to something. They can just go. So manifesting generators are really here to basically show us how to do things faster, more efficiently. And so by design, they're meant to kind of make mistakes because they're moving fast. They're very fast moving because they have a lot of power with that sacral energy, especially if their sacral center is directly connected to their throat, like your father. So they're multitaskers. They're meant to be doing lots of things at once. That is appropriate use of their energy. They, like I said, they're prone to making mistakes because they tend to skip steps because they're moving so fast. They want to get things done. And I don't mean like manic, they're like crazy, these frenzied people or anything. They just, when they get the go signal, they can make things, go. Yeah, they can make things happen. So they're ready to, get moving. And they say, yeah, it actually is an appropriate use of the energy for a manifesting generator to have several things going on at once. And they don't necessarily have to really even finish all the things they have going on. They just really have to. You're smiling. Sound like somebody
I'm just thinking. Yeah.
But this moving ahead and moving at a faster pace, but that's how they learn. That's part of their process. That's how they refine and make things, see what works and what doesn't work. So, and if they've moved into a situation appropriately, as in they responded to something, then they really won't mind retracing steps and doing things because it's probably something they want to be doing. Right?
Mm-hmm. So then what is the, I guess, more technical term or whatever phrasing for their authority?
What?
Yeah. Strategy for their strategy. What is the more technical term for their strategy?
Well, it's a combination. So they have to respond, and then they have to wait to respond and then inform. So
Twofer.
yeah. So in that informing piece, yeah, sometimes they move too fast. And so they can get into action before really waiting to respond to something. And so they have to figure out that they might not be moving in the right direction.
Because so like more of the manifesting energy is trying to do what they want and just do it right now. But then the generator energy is like, we got to wait to see if this is something that's right. We have to wait if we're going to actually respond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because they have that sacral response. So they have to honor the sacral response. They have to.
They're kind of at odds.
Yeah. I'm glad. I mean, I'm a generator. I think most people, once they learn about their design and they start really leaning into it and experimenting with it and following their type, strategy, and authority, you kind of do start to what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to really enjoy your own type because it feels natural to you. And so I started to say, I'm glad I'm not a manifesting generator.
But that's you married one.
I did. But that's because I'm a generator. So it wouldn't feel natural to me, right? Mm. Yes. And this is another beautiful thing about human design is because, well, your father and I have been married for a long time. 28 years, I think. Something like that.
I'm 25.
Yeah. Well, we were together longer than we were married. So some of these things, obviously, we laughed about, we're smiling about because we know your father.
I'm just thinking of your kitchen currently.
Thinking of all the projects that didn't get finished, everything he has going on, his whole backyard shed situation. But that man can figure out how to do absolutely anything.
Pretty much anything.
He has many trials and errors. He's made mistakes, but he can literally figure out how to do anything. He's
legitimately MacGyver.
He is. And I tell him all the time, he's one of the smartest people I know. He doesn't believe it because he, open head Najna, he thinks he can't retain information. But I'm slowly trying to teach him and show him, not teach him, but show him that, this is his genius, is doing lots of things and trying lots of things and figuring it out. And that's what he does. And it's also helped me to, communicate better and to have a lot more tolerance for how fast he moves sometimes. And to be able to tell him, I don't move that fast. We need to slow it down.
Or just tell me what you're doing. Just tell me what you're going to go do.
Tell me what you're doing.
That's all I need.
Yes. And since learning human design, I have seen it so clearly that I've had to tell him, slow down. Because I was trying to remember recently, it was something he wanted to do. And he was 13 steps ahead and he was already going into action. But luckily, he'd been informing me what he wanted to do and what we should be doing. And I was able to say, whoa. Let's start back here at step 1.
You missed a couple steps. Let's get that.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, yeah, okay. You're probably right about that. All right. Saved him some trouble on that one. I can't remember what it was now. But so they have the themes of frustration and anger because they could experience if they're not following their strategy. Again, they could enter into things incorrectly. They could initiate before they respond. Even though they can go into action, they have to respond to something first. They can't just something on the outside of them, not
because they still have that sacral response, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. So some famous manifesting generators.
Give them to me.
Oh, Stephen King.
Classics.
Elon Musk. I put him in there because everybody knows who he is. I don't know he's my favorite person, but he's definitely got a lot of ideas and a lot of
yes, he does.
Stuff he's done. I mean, he got space.
Going shooting from Mars.
Yeah. And the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was also a manifesting generator.
Wait, no, you said the emotional theme. It was anger and frustration. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's next?
What's next, Haley?
Is it mine?
Projectors. Projectors are 20% of the population.
Shout out.
So let's see if Haley can tell us what would define what would make you a projector.
The root defined.
No.
Oh shit.
That's you.
Let's see.
It's a trick question.
So it's what's not defined?
Yes. So, okay. So the manifestors, undefined sacral center, motorized throat. Generators, defined sacral, non-motorized throat.
So is a projector non-defined sacral and throat?
Mm-hmm. Non-motorized throat.
Non-motorized throat.
Yeah.
Non-defined sacral, non-motorized throat.
Correct. So they could have a defined throat, but there's no motor connected to it. So.
And that's it. That's all you get.
Yeah. So with an open sacral center, I should say undefined sacral center, that means that a projector is here to learn when enough is enough. Now, there's lots of different types of projectors depending on where their definition is. You'll have what they'll refer to as a non-energy projector, or say like you are a projector. However, you are defined through your spleen, your splenic projector to your root. So you do have periods of the root energy. You don't always know when the energy is going to be there. But when the root energy is there, adrenalized energy, it gives you that pulse of energy to get things done. However, it's not sustainable energy, which is what the sacral center provides. So a projector really is the type that is designed to, or is the type that is here to learn when they need rest and when to work. So they're not really designed to work in a typical 9-to-5 setting as well as like the manifestor, because they don't have consistent access to sustainable energy.
I feel that. I really feel that.
And so there are projectors that have no motors defined at all. Those would be the non-energy types. They could be mental projectors. And so that's even more important for them, because when we dig into the centers, we'll get into how the places where you're undefined in your chart, the centers that are white, are areas where you, when you're in contact with other people, are areas where you take in the energy around you, amplify it, and reflect it back. So this is really important for projectors to understand, because most of the world has defined sacral centers. The majority of the world has a defined sacral center. And so like you lived with 3 of them growing up. And ironically, you seem to be the more energetic one at times, to have more energy to push through and get things done. You're the one that always, I mean, who is making all the cookies all day long on at Christmas? It's you.
It's me.
Your dad, he'll pop in and out. Sure, he'll do it. He's got all the energy. Your brother,
he's only there to frost the sugar cookies. That's all he wants to do.
And he wants to do it so fast.
No, and then he hyper focuses on them, and he'll do like super intricate ones, and we're like, stop.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, where the generators, Ian and I are like, maybe, okay. Sacral's like,
I have to.
I know. What about, remember when we were going to paint the front room? We're going to repaint the front room. I was like, I want to paint the front room. You're like, okay, let's do it. So we go in to do it. And you, okay, we have to, because projectors are really good at guiding and managing others.
Instructions.
Instructions, following the rules. They know what to do. They know what needs to be done. And I remember you would be like, well, we have to wipe down the walls and we have to tape this off first and we have to do all this prep work. And I was just like, ugh, my sacral was like, and we were instantly reversed in our roles. I was the child.
I think I painted most of that room.
I helped once you got everything prepped. But anyways, I digress. So the role, as I just mentioned, that projectors play is that they are here to guide and lead others. They're not here to do the work. They're here to manage and guide the work. Okay? Because a projector's energy literally can extend out and reach into the other and see into the other is what they kind of describe it as. That when they are around other types, around other people, they just kind of know what the other needs to do. But it also makes the projector a little blind to themselves. They can't always see themselves, but they can always see the other. Because of their openness, they are here to learn through the other. And so that's a really important lesson for projectors, which follows their strategy, which is to wait to be recognized or wait to be invited to maybe share their guidance or their advice. And another thing, we were talking about how most types don't want to hear they can be resistant to hearing their strategy. I hear it most from projectors because the strategy is wait for the invitation or wait for the recognition. I would like to point out that there's a lot of confusion around the strategy of a projector because the wait for the invitation, most projectors will hear that they have to wait to be invited into absolutely everything. And that's just not true. The invitation part of it is for the big things in life, like entering into relationships or careers or moving or things that involve a lot of transactions.
Change.
Yeah, big change, which don't happen very often because the projector's energy of being these, there's only 20% of projectors, this very rare energy of knowing what needs to happen. They're here to help us move into this next shift in the human consciousness. And so they're kind of always able to, in their environment, just know what's going on and what needs to be done. And this is all done at a subtle energetic level. And so their energy is very precious because they don't have sustainable sources of energy. So they have to really be selective about who they enter into contracts, relationships, things like that with, because it can be...
Because if someone doesn't invite you in and then you waste your energy on them, then you've just wasted it. Whereas, because they may not be open to what you're trying to do, but then if they said, you come over here, you do this, we want you, then you're not wasting it.
Well, it's the other recognizing the projector for the energy and the skills that they carry. So that means that when they're recognized by the right people, those are the people that they are meant to help guide and manage because their people recognize them. Remember when we talked about in the second, about the fractals, about all the expanding out? So if you can imagine, projectors are meant to guide. They have very specific people that they are meant to guide. They're part of their fractal line. And so if they're always going around just say, hey, you need to try this, or hey, you should listen to me, hey, blah, 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 they're just wasting their time. They literally, people will not hear them. And I know you've had that experience.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. You may know what needs to be said, what needs to be done. However, you have to wait to be asked for your guidance. You have to be recognized. So that being said, The emotional theme for the projector is bitterness. You laugh?
Yeah,
Do you understand?
I don't know.
Do you relate?
I don't know. Like, I'm really not good at recognizing myself.
Classic.
I mean, all the time you'll tell me I'm this or I'm this, and I'm like, really? Really? I'm like, tell me more.
Well, let's see. So you've had some invitations in your lifetime. You're 25. I look back at some of your achievements in life and the things that you were invited into. It was because someone recognized you and invited you in. I
Like what?
mostly I mostly think about your stint, your senior year as the yearbook editor for your school.
Mm-hmm.
That was your Mr. Glenn? Is that
T.
who
Glenn.
it was? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of your teachers. Did you work in the yearbook before you were?
Yeah, so I had the previous semester, or I guess the semester before I became the editor, I ended up in the yearbook class, and he was trying to figure out who would be the next editor, and he had like this assignment to you had to basically design a few pages to show what you would want, and so I did that, and then he picked me to be the editor.
There you go. You were invited in, and it worked out really well. You did a really good job at it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm your mom.
I mean, it's a big deal. It was for the whole school.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So, yes, so the projector has to be invited for that reason, because even though they're here to guide and manage, they're not here to guide and manage everybody. You may want to. You can, I know you can look around everywhere, at work, at the grocery store, wherever you go. You could probably tell a lot of people a lot of things they probably need to hear. But
I am constantly people watching and like listening in on other people. So that's and then I'll make comments to Presley, and he's like, "What?" I'm like, "You weren't listening. Dang it."
Yeah. You remember Tanya's story about Tanya, my best friend, when Haley was growing up. Still my best friend, but she was in daily contact with us when Haley was little. And Tanya was having an issue with her family, with her taking care of her grandmother and some family obligations that were pulling at her that she was discussing with me. And little Haley piped up from the back seat and said, "Tanya, they just need to let you live your life." We didn't even know you were listening.
Like how old would you say I was in that?
Probably like 5. You're young. Yeah. You're a sweet little girl. Very intuitive. But anyways, so projectors, let's get back on track. So if they are trying to push their guidance where it's not been invited, it can lead to bitterness, or they can feel a certain sense of bitterness in life. It's just not fair. Why won't they listen to me? It's just some of that.
Just want to help them.
Right. Yeah. It makes you feel that.
Some of the why won't they listen to me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. So it can lead to that. So when a projector starts to feel that, maybe that sense of angst, bitterness, maybe just take a step back and be like, okay, well, am I trying to offer my assistance where it has not been invited? Do these people recognize me for what I bring to the table? And if you can reflect on that, you might see that that's quite possibly. Also, for a projector, bitterness can also show up when maybe they've been working against their type and their strategy, in the sense that they're overworked, and that they're maybe pushing where they shouldn't be pushing, where they haven't taken a break, and it can start to feel this bitterness towards life. And it's a signal. It's to let you know that it's time to take a step back and maybe regroup, regather your resources, and rest. Rest is very important for projectors.
Yes.
Because with that undefined sacral center, they're taking in the sacral energy of all those generators around them all day, and they need to kind of discharge that energy at the end of the day by laying down. The generator is supposed to work real hard and just exhaust themselves and go to sleep. A projector and a manifestor as well, undefined centers, need to, before they try to go to sleep, they can't work to the point past exhaustion because it'll just make it that much harder. They don't bounce back the next day. So it's a good idea to maybe lay down for a little bit before you go to sleep, just to kind of discharge. By laying down, that kind of helps discharge the sacral energy. So you don't, that's what when we talked about need to learn when enough is enough, and that's part of it, because once you start feeling exhausted, you've probably gone too far.
That's like at Thanksgiving, I
Mm-hmm.
was just kind of like I didn't want to deal with the people that were coming over for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, just go in my room and just lay down on the couch on the bed and pet the cat. And I did that. And I don't know, maybe it was Lily, maybe it was laying down, but I felt
Yeah.
much better afterwards. I didn't have the same feeling about how dinner was going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to take little breaks like that. You need to understand that even though a projector might, and a lot of projectors struggle with feeling perceived as lazy because they do need more rest. They need time alone to not carry all that sacral energy. And especially in our culture, in our work centric world of like everybody just needs to work hard, and you know, you live with a generator who likes to work.
We yesterday literally worked till almost midnight.
Oh gosh, that's not healthy for him
Yeah.
either.
No.
Because I don't know that he enjoys it that much. But so, you know, somebody says that the projectors are like holding the energetic template of what we're moving in towards, which is where we don't have to physically work so hard at everything, that we can manage our energy better. And so even when it looks like you're just sitting on the couch, you know, you energetically hold a very high purpose. You're holding the whole world together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll use that next time.
I'll tell you. Um,
Okay, so I think
I
oh,
know.
famous people. Famous people.
Famous people. Well,
My boy
famous
Barack.
projectors. Barack Obama, Princess Diana, and Steven Spielberg. Which is interesting, you know, all very good leaders, but they had their own process for sure. Okay, so lastly, we
But
come
not
to
least, well,
not
actually,
least.
technically least in the amount of
Well,
people.
people, the reflector. Yes, 1% of the population. Very
Really,
rare
it's that
type.
low.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have not personally met a reflector yet. I know of some, but I haven't met any. Okay. So, reflectors, as we touched very briefly, if anybody remembers bonus points of the very beginning, we said that as far as definition goes, determining your type,
They have none.
reflectors do not have definition in their chart, meaning they do not have
So
any colored in centers, meaning all the centers in their chart are white.
how is that possible if those are defined by the planets?
Well, it just means where all the planets sit in their chart just don't make connections on either end of those channels. So if you look at a projector
So
chart,
that so the actual connection of centers is what creates definition.
yes,
Okay.
that's what we said earlier.
I don't think I've ever seen a reflector body graph, so I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. And
It'll
it's
be all the centers will be white, but you will see gate activation. So it's all just hanging gates.
okay.
Just all just hanging gates. They just don't make connections with the in their own birth natal chart. There are no connections. Okay, so there's no channels. It's all gates.
It's all hanging gates.
Yeah. So what that means is that they are always in any environment that they're in is extremely important to a reflector because they magnify and reflect back all that is around them. So they're the observer. And so they can really determine the health of an environment, honestly, because they are feeling and
I
being.
remember there was I don't remember what movie or even the actress's name, but you were saying how she was like the character that she was portraying, it felt so real and it was so incredible. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to know what her type is. And you looked it up
Mm-hmm.
and she was a reflector. And
Yes,
you're like, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I can't remember her name right now.
I can't
She's
even.
a young woman, and it was in a movie that just the Tom Hanks movie that just came. It's on Apple, The News of the World, and she plays a young girl who was a Quaker, I believe. No, Mormon. You know, back when they were all traveling out west, that her family
Mhm.
was killed by Native Americans, and then she was raised by she lost her family when she was like 2, and then was raised by Native Americans until this movie takes place when she was like 12. And the wisdom of the U.S. government decides she needs to go back to her white Mormon people, and Tom Hanks was taking her back. But yeah, her performance was incredible, and the intensity. And so I think it really does lend to her energy type of being able to tap in basically to any. They could really be a chameleon like that, because depending on what is required of her as far as acting, she could certainly tap into that experience, because that's what she's designed to do. Doesn't mean they're all actresses.
No.
They can be, a lot of times there's this misconception, I think, that all reflectors are like these really quiet, meek, humble types because like they quote unquote have this energy. But really they might be the more energetic, amplified person in the room, because they are amplifying the energy of what's around them all the time.
Hmm.
So they're here to really have that observer level to let us know how we're all doing. That's their role, is kind of like to, it's like the roving immune defense system in the body. It's out there tracking to see, getting a finger on the pulse, see what's going on. Are we healthy? Are we not healthy? Where do we need to correct? Where do we need to tighten things up, maybe? And I'll be honest, I have some learned knowledge of what a reflector is. I have not met someone personally, and there is so little still to understand about reflectors, because there's not that many of them. Okay. So the strategy for a reflector is to wait 28 days. Yes, I see your face.
So their literal strategy is wait 28 days,
Again,
specifically 28 days.
again, this is for those big life decision things as well. They don't have to wait 28 days to see what kind of vitamin to buy or if they can eat Chinese food tonight. That's not
God,
what
that
it
would be
means.
like,
You'd starve.
that'd be so impossible.
Yeah. No. There is a reason for
For
this,
the
because
big life things.
because they would, you'll hear them say about reflectors that they don't have an inner authority. They don't have an authority, but they do. They're lunar beings, and they have to wait this 28-day cycle, because through the moon, and as the moon transits through, because remember, all the planets transit through the chart, the sun goes through all the 64 hexagrams, the gates. The moon does as well, and it takes the moon roughly 28 days to move through every single one of those gates. Okay? Are you following?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The moon.
So as it does, and as other planets are moving around, it is what helps create temporary definition in a reflector's chart. So if you think about it, so the moon could move through a couple gates in a day, right? So
Why the moon?
hmm?
Why is it the moon?
Because the Well, for one, let's think about what the moon does. It reflects the sun's energy. but but
Fair
also
enough.
for this, because they are tied to the cycle of the moon, because of the way it moves through, and it helps them get a better understanding of themselves and what's appropriate for them through how the moon as it transits through creates definitions. So basically, if they have all these hanging gates and the moon is moving through, so say the reflector had a gate hanging off the sacral center, and at some point during the month, because it's always going to go through the gates in the same order.
Mm-hmm.
So the reflector is going to know there's going to be parts of the month where my, say my gate 59 is going to be connected to the solar plexus through gate 6, because the moon will activate that gate. So basically, if you were to look at a reflector's chart, which I think would be cool to do, like showing how the definition throughout the month lights up different
Mm-hmm.
centers. So it's always going to be lighting up different centers. Plus, whoever they're in contact with helps activate some of those things. But basically, if you're a reflector, you need to really start charting the moon for yourself and just noticing what your energy feels like on certain days. So some days you're going to be lower energy, some days higher energy. Some days you experience life as a manifestor, sometimes as a generator. So it's just like,
So, does the moon affect the other types like this?
in a way, yes, but not
But
as much.
not aggressive, but not as prevalent, or I don't know what
Right.
word I'm trying to say there.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Because for all the other types, even if you only have two centers defined, right? Which you will, if you're any other type, you're going to have at least two centers defined, because otherwise you'd be a reflector. So even if you only have two centers defined, you may be very, very open, but there is still going to be a part of you that is always consistent in your energy expression through those defined centers, through that consistent energy. Whereas a reflector, it changes, it moves, it flows. It can be different depending on who they're with during the time of month. So it's a very
Fluid.
intuitive but also fluid, yeah, existence. What I understand. So
So
it is a
did you say what
slow.
their
No, not yet. Not yet.
strategy is?
Yeah. The strategy is to wait 28 days. Yes, we did say that. You're
Oh,
asking about the
yeah.
emotional
Okay.
theme. The
Yes.
emotional theme is disappointment. And
Well,
so
that's so sad. There's just disappointment.
yeah. Well, one of the reasons is because they may experience disappointment because if they had, say, like something, important decision to make, they don't want to wait the 28 days, and they enter into a relationship or contract or move or whatever it is, big life decision, without really giving themselves the time. And also during that time when they're feeling it out through the moon transits, they also need, I should have mentioned this, they also need a couple really trusted people in their life that they can use as a sounding board to kind of feel out how, to talk about it, see how they feel, not really asking for advice. So if they talk to someone, they can kind of see their own reflection through how the other is responding to them, if that makes sense.
That makes sense because you said that they are picking up, they're really pulling in the energy that is around
Yeah,
them.
so it's easier to kind of talk it out. A lot of projectors need to talk it out too, to kind of get that same kind of response. So maybe they didn't give themselves enough time to make a big decision. Things didn't work out. It can be disappointing. One thing they also say, they can experience disappointment because since they can really feel into others, they really tend to fall in love with the potential of people, because they can, all aspects, anybody they come in contact with, they can tap into that and see it and feel it and understand it at a very deep level. And so it can be disappointing when people don't necessarily see their own potential or people aren't really living into their potential, it can cause them to experience disappointment. So that's the reflectors. And you're going to ask me favorite. Famous. I only know one, and I forgot to look up any others. It's Sandra Bullock. So as we get to the end of every episode, I always wonder, I hope it provided some value.
I learned a lot.
I always like talking to you, so that's always a bonus for me. And this was, like we said, a very broad overview of types, but felt it was important to talk about at the beginning here because it's going to inform everything else we talk about as we go through the different layers of human design. I mean, you just can't talk about human design without talking about type.
Oh.
No, not at all.
No.
Okay, so that's the types for today, and I'm going to wrap this up on my own because as Haley and I were wrapping up our interview, something really weird started happening with her microphone or her headphones. We're not sure what, but she sounds like a robot underwater in an echo chamber. So we don't need to hear that. But thank you for listening, and coming up, you're going to hear about the authorities and maybe a little bit shorter episode. I don't know. So we'll aim for that. So we'll just say bye.
Bye.
Well, you made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share this podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.